You know, my kindred spirit on that trip across country was a political science minor. At the time, I was a political science major. Nick Dovedot joins us right now from Reno, Nevada. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Bob?
I'm doing good. I hear you've changed careers, though. Tell us what you're doing.
I am a nurse over at Reno. I'm a cardiac intensive care nurse and taking care of a few of these COVID patients time to time too.
Yeah, the timing couldn't be more perfect to talk to you. How would you describe what's been going on for you in the last 2 months?
Reno's in a unique bubble when it comes to this situation. We kind of watch the outskirts being California, Utah, Arizona, Washington even kind of blow up with this virus, and then we've taken care of some of the patients that have come up, and it's uniquely sick. That's the best way I can put it, and it's sad situation sometimes, but I'm hoping we can get on top of it here, and we're doing our best. In my hospital, we've got a good team and trying to get people home to their loved ones.
You know, it's ironic that we're going to be talking about the intersection of these two major issues, COVID-19 and the movement to end racism. But I'm just curious, what do you think about these marches continuing as we videotape this literally just 3 weeks after the death of George Floyd?
I think the protests are wonderful. I want to see more of them, and any kind of peaceful protests against what's been going on. We're about 400 years behind the curve here when it comes to equality for the United States people, especially Black Americans, and anyone of color in this nation, really. From the coronavirus perspective, it's a little bit difficult to swallow because, we have large gatherings coming together, but they're coinciding. I can't control that, and I will get people home as best as I can, back to their families and back to trying to get this nation as equal as possible, and hopefully be 100% there at some point soon.
And again, we're recording this in 2020, right in the midst of this pandemic. So many people are expecting a second wave. So we'll bring that back into our conversation as we go along. But I want to bring you back now to our project. It was 11 years ago. Can you believe 11 years that we selected you along with 9 other students from the School of Journalism?
It's awesome. In fact, made sure I still have our little thing. I actually have a bunch of stuff from it. So, and I show it off to my coworkers and friends and families as the years have gone by, and talk to them about different issues and inequalities occurring in this nation and what we did as a group. And hopefully we can, stand on the shoulders of giants once again and get moving forward here.
Nick, hold that up one more time as I talk a little bit about it for people who don't know. When you guys came back, this is what you produced.
Yep. It's a nice little magazine, different things going on, different articles to talk about what we all experienced for I believe it's 13 days that we were on that trip visiting of the Civil Rights South, and the 70s led us, and then into President Barack Obama's inauguration.
And I remember while you all were on that trip, many of you would call me because I was stationed back in California, and I would talk to you about doing broadcasts on radio or television. You did something for CNN, but describe the emotion of the trip itself. All of you were very deeply moved by that trip.
We had our first meal in Memphis together, and it was joyful. We were all a big family doing this trip together, and then we went and went on Emmett Till's trail, essentially. And that's really a defining moment for me of, that's day one pretty much. And we drove the entire length, starting at the grocery store to where they found him, and 13-year-old boy murdered, and it heart-wrenching. And that's when this became a opening experience to leave the enclave of the Bay Area and see what this nation has dealt with since the start. And it's sad because it's not better yet. We need it to be.
And I think that's the point of why we're doing this reunion. You all had hoped, and we all had hoped, that the inauguration of an African-American president would signal a major change in Americans' thinking about race and racism. How have we fulfilled that dream, would you say?
I'd say that when it comes to this, the next generation coming up, the Gen Zers, I think, and some of the younger millennials are definitely on the verge of a breakthrough. The feeling that's coming out of the younger generation reminds me of what I read about from the 60s and 70s, with any of the protests and movements at that time for racial equalities. And I'm hoping that we're going to see their passion and love for each other breaks any kind of color barrier, any kind of prejudice barriers, and can be done with it. Unfortunately, I think that our current head of state is flaming a fire and not his head, to make things worse. And I think he's doing it on purpose at this point.
Well, history is going to certainly be the judge of whether this was a time the country lost leadership or had very interesting leadership, to put it nicely. But having said that, as a poli-sci person, someone who studied political science, have you been amazed by the intersection of these two major events this year?
It's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, you think you would expect one in your lifetime to see, and I don't know which one I would have seen more of, because we saw that stuff, read about it during our trip to the 1960s and 70s, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever see something of that nature, and I don't think we're just there yet. I'm hoping we will. And then you combine it with a pandemic, not an epidemic, a pandemic. This is worldwide, coinciding together. I don't know. I'm mind blown. I don't know. It's disturbing and also awe-inspiring that we're surviving. We're hopefully going to move forward, and we're trying to move forward. So I hope that we can get through all aspects when it comes to both.
And I liken this year 2020 to being a teenager in high school back in Chicago in 1968, when the Democratic Convention went there and there was such police violence in the streets and protesters and looting and fires, and the convention, it seemed to be out of control. At my age, I wasn't even allowed to be on the street as a teenager. It was a curfew. A lot of those issues echoing now through time to 2020, similar type of police responses, and certainly the energy and the anger in the streets. How does it make you feel seeing this in your lifetime?
I'm upset that this is still occurring. In fact, I think anger is the right emotion to feel right now from anybody that is disturbed by what's occurring, when it comes to police brutality, inequalities, racial injustices. I think that we should be angry. Our voices need to be heard. And as a 20-year-old, I didn't want to see my family, myself, and my future kids, which I don't have any yet, but I hopefully will see, the future in a brighter place. And that's all I want at this point. I'm 32, and it's ridiculous that in my lifetime, we're still dealing with this, and it's been going on for 400 years. I think we should be very angry. Our children should never feel what we feel today, and be able to be more constructive later on, rather than have to fight each other over this and get to a better place.
It's ironic you should say that. I've been talking to people who have careers in the National Football League, medical doctors who've been in the industry for decades, all kinds of career paths, all of them saying the same thing. It's time for this finally to be put front in our minds and to deal with it. And yet there's a skepticism, there's a fear this will die down and it'll all go back in the closet. What do you think?
I think that we're hopefully not going to get to that point. I'm worried about that as well. But again, I think if this was occurring 2, 3, 4 years ago, I think it would have died out by now. But it's been a few weeks, and I'm hoping that we don't need some kind of event to incite more. We don't need any more deaths, but we need more protesting. And our fan should have already been flamed and continue forward. We don't want anything else. I'm fearful that other things are going to occur, and I hope that it does not. And we just need to keep moving forward and protest and argue and debate and break through this mold that we've been stuck in. And that fear that people fear is, I think, the unknowing of, it's been 400 years of dealing with any kind of, the word is slavery at this point. It really is. Indentured servitude. And you can name it any way you want, but that's what I'm a 6'1" white male American from the Bay Area. I can't exactly live in a Black American's shoes, but I can try as best as I can. And I see the injustices being done to any Black American and person of color. And I'm hoping that everyone can get on the same page and we can be done with this crap.
When you guys came back from your trip to Washington and being at the inauguration, you were euphoric about being there when Barack Obama became president, but you also, some of you were in tears by the emotions of that trip. Describe a little bit about Washington, what that was like that day, and that experience for all of you.
So for myself, I pretty much underwent hypothermia, so I was cold, but it was awe-inspiring to see 2-something million people crowded in one area. Thank God coronavirus wasn't going on right then. And to see everyone on the same page, yes, we were there to see President Barack Obama be inaugurated, but it was so much more than that. And it kind of was the accumulation of our passion seeing a non-white American be the president of the United States of America, and especially be a Black American who, as eloquent as he was, had the best speeches, and I miss that man very much as our president. So I'm hoping that we can bring that passion through and carry, his words of change into this.
And finally, we are documenting your reactions 11 years later, along with all the other team members that are available. What would you say to this generation of college students at San Jose State and future generations about being vigilant and paying attention to these issues in our society?
Present everything with love. Make sure you have love and passion behind all the things that you do. And it's okay to be angry right now. It's okay to present that anger, but you also need to listen to each other and hear the words, even if that means take a step away for 24 hours, come back, talk about it some more, make some actions. It can't all just be talk. And you need to love one another, no matter what. Even if you feel hatred towards that person, find something that you love about that person and connect on that note, and then maybe you can break through. That's probably the most important thing I deal with on a daily basis in my profession at this point. When somebody comes in angry at me with me and I've never met them, the moment is to love them, help them get home, help create a change for them, and it's all you can do. And then keep moving forward.
Well said, my friend. You deal with life and death every day at hospitals as a nurse, but you still care enough to want to help your former university, and we greatly appreciate it. We look forward to getting you together with all the rest of the group coming up real soon for our joint discussion. Thank you.
It's going to be fun. Thank you.